20. He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got a third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He did a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield 30 to the 20. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Kermit Whitfield, a 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the end.
It's caught. It's caught. It's caught. Touchdown, FSU. Kelvin Benjamin.
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
This is the Garnet and Old Podcast with your hosts, Ryan Eastman and Vince Ciccarelli.
You are watching the Garnet and Old Show, but guess what? There's just me. Just me by myself because Vince is on vacation. He is right now somewhere in Alaska or headed back from Alaska or something like that. But he is currently on a cruise in the middle of the ocean. I wish him a safe return, but tonight you got me. And we do have some interesting news that came out. So I want to get right into it. This week we actually had times come out for our first three games. Now we already knew that the LSU game was going to be on Labor Day weekend. We already knew it was likely going to be a primetime game, but we got some confirmation on when that will be. So LSU, Florida State, neutral site game in Orlando, Florida on Labor Day night, 7:30 p.m., which means on ESPN, ABC, the world will be watching a likely top 10 matchup between Florida State and LSU. Now, why do I like primetime matchups the first game of the year? We all see these preseason polls every single year come out, and then someone plays three cupcakes to start the year, and they just hang around the top five because they haven't played anyone. What I really love about this first game of the year is that we're going to find out in a hurry. Is Florida State for real? Or are they good and maybe capable of winning the ACC, but are they good enough to compete for a national championship? Now, I personally think they are good enough to win a national championship and to at least, at a bare minimum, make it to the playoff. But LSU is a good team. They got a lot of talent. Just like Florida State, they were able to win 10 games last year when no one expected them or picked them to do so. And that was despite them losing to us in a very exhilarating fashion with the block kick. So right in Orlando, it's going to be packed with Florida State fans. I'm sure LSU fans are going to travel really, really well. But listen, it's anyone's game. That really is a toss-up. I think right now, early odds show Florida State just under a 1 or 2 point underdog to LSU, which I do not agree with. If I had to go Vegas odds on this thing, I would say Florida State by 3. And that's what I would pick. I think the talent coming back with the talent we brought in the offseason is enough to beat LSU, who we already, if you watched that game last year against LSU, Florida State's in control the entire game. That game was on its way to being a 21-point victory. Florida State's on the 1 yard line going in to make it a more than 2 touchdown game, going to put it away easily. And then we fumble, right? LSU drives it down the field, gets a touchdown. Okay, well, now we get the ball back. We don't do anything with it. LSU gets the ball back, gets a touchdown, and they lose by a block kick. So I think we were a much better team than LSU to start the year last year. Now, I think it'll be a much closer matchup the entire game. I see Florida State and LSU going back and forth the entire game. But I don't think even a pessimistic Florida State fan, I don't think it would say that Florida State should have been the underdog in a matchup against LSU when we beat them last year. I do want to welcome Vince in the chat. So I know he's trying to stream from Alaska right now. So let's show what he says here. Vince, the co-host from Garnet and Old. No bueno from Alaska. I can imagine the internet not too good from Alaska. But Vince, if you do have a question for your co-host, send it in. I'd love to hear from you, and I wish you guys all the best on your trip. So let's talk about, I think, a more important thing, not necessarily the game, but the time. And I'm gonna be kind of frustrated here for a little bit. Florida State, the second game of the year, which will be their home opener, they play Southern Miss. We've known that. Okay, it's going to be an easy game, home opener. What we're hoping for is we just came off a huge win against a top 10 team, and we're riding high, and everything's great. And I actually wanted this to be a 3:30 or 7:00, 7:30 kick against Southern Miss. Well, folks, it's going to be a long day in Tallahassee. 8:30 kickoff, which means if you don't book your hotel now, good luck, because those prices, I've checked today already. An average hotel in Tallahassee, not even a nice one, an average one for September the 9th, is going for around $300 to $400 a night. The only hotels that are going for less than that are places you would not want to stay at, or that are in like Bainbridge, Georgia. Now, do I know why 8:30 was the chosen time? I know it seems odd. Not many games in general are ever played at 8:30 at night. So, hey, one thing I can't complain about with the 8:30 start time is the weather, right? Because it's going to be hot. It's summertime. Usually these home openers are nooners or 3:30 start times. So I will take a nice night game for the temperature reasons. But I am going to have to probably get a hotel, because at best case scenario, even if we blow them out, we're talking getting out of that stadium, around 11 or midnight. I'm not driving back that night, and I can't imagine a whole lot of people would. So those hotel prices, take it from your Garnet and Old trusted sources. Get your hotel rooms now, because they're already going super high. One thing that I am thrilled about, however, Boston College. All right. Boston College is terrible. Boston College will be an easy win for Florida State. And what a glorious time it will be. We beat LSU. We destroy Southern Miss in our home opener. And we head into Boston College Week 2-0. 2-0, my friends. We're probably a top 5 team. Guess what? We better win this game and become 3-0, because the very next week is Clemson. But we'll get to Clemson when we get there. Boston College. Why am I stoked about the time that they released for this game? It's a nooner, folks. If you are going to play on the road against anyone other than your rival, you want to play a nooner. Fans are not really been partying all day. The away crowd is maybe a little sleepy nooner in Chestnut Hill, which is already a sleepy place to play. But I am very happy that we get to play them in the middle of the day when no one's watching and no one cares what's going on in Chestnut Hill, except for Florida State fans. Because, my friends, I am predicting we'll be 3-0 at the end of that game. And then all eyes to Clemson. I think a lot of people who maybe have not really locked in to football season did not really know that Clemson was so early this year. Usually we think Clemson end of October. No, man, it's fourth game of the year. We're playing Clemson, and then Virginia Tech the very next week. So I feel like they kind of flip-flopped where we usually play Miami. Miami usually being in the beginning of earlier in the year. Miami's not until November 11th, so it's going to be interesting. The question is, if Florida State, and this is realistic, if Florida State goes 4-0 after beating Clemson, do you see another loss on the board? I mean, the hardest teams left are Miami and Florida. Both of them weren't doing a whole lot of anything last year. So what does that look like? Who knows? But I'm excited that we got our first glimpse of real game times for the football season. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that home opener. What are my plans? So One of my favorite podcasts, the Jeff Cameron Show, they like to say category 5 maintain for a late game because you're drinking all day. You can't peak too early, right? You can't be throwing up in the stalls at Joe Campbell Stadium. You got to pace yourselves. So what I'm going to call this, I'm coining the phrase tropical depression maintain. Okay, we're playing Southern Miss. It's a foregone conclusion we're going to win that game. But are we going to be partying a little bit, being that's the home opener? Absolutely. I know I will be. So what I encourage everyone to do is pace yourself. You know what? Have your beer, have your liquor. That's awesome. Maybe throw in a water bottle. Water bottle can do the world of good on a long weekend. You got to pace yourself. We don't want to peak too early. So I encourage everyone to just ease on into it, right? Ease on in. That week, though, when we play at 8:30, some other games going on earlier that day. So Florida State, plays on Labor Day, and then we go into week 2, and there's some games going on that if you're at a tailgate and you have a TV or an iPad or something that you can stream the games on, how about a little Texas at Alabama? How about Oklahoma SMU, which is a traditional rivalry? Might not mean as much anymore, but Texas and Alabama. Watch out, Alabama. Let's not screw around with Texas. Later that day, you got Texas A&M and Miami. I know neither team is probably going to be that good, but the train wreck that is about to be the Texas A&M season with the offensive coordinator working with Jimbo, who knows what that ends up being. But we always like to see Miami lose, so I wouldn't mind actually seeing Jimbo get the victory there. And there's a couple other games that day. So what I would say is you pitch your tent, find your spot at Doak. You pitch that tent, and then you beer, water, shot. Beer, water, shot, and you just repeat that until the end of the day when it's time to see Florida State take that victory. Other than that, not a whole lot going on except for obviously the women's team going to the College World Series. That's big. A lot of good stuff happening with the women's programs, which I love to see, and I know Vince loves to see as well. I want to remind those who have been listening normally on Tuesday nights, the Thursday night move is not just for Vince being out of town. It is permanent. So we are going to be every single week on Thursday at 7 o'clock instead of Tuesday. Come the football season, which we have some announcements to make when Vince returns, we will be doing perhaps some live shows, maybe at certain establishments locally or in Tallahassee. There's going to be some more live broadcasting. And we have a lot of exciting stuff we want to share with you, but we want to make sure we have all the details before we share it. But we're going to start doing the Garnet and Old Show on Thursday, so when the season starts, we can report on everything that happened in practice right up to the point in which the weekend of the game is supposed to happen. On Friday and or maybe on Saturday, we have some type of live broadcast, whether pre or post game or reporting from some kind of maybe a bar and grill. But we'll talk about that more later. But we're gonna have a lot of fun stuff this year. I'm really excited. I know we have a lot to say, and I think when Vince comes back, we're gonna do a little wins and losses prediction next Thursday. Go through and give my predictions and Vince's predictions. I'm interested to see what Vince says. I tend to be pie in the sky guy, right? Anyone who knows me, Florida State could win a national championship every year. Now, that wasn't true during Willie's tenure here. I was not predicting, national championships. However, I was predicting like 8 or 9 wins, and that was too much to ask for. So I'm interested to hear Vince's answers because he's always a little bit more pragmatic and realistic with his expectations of this team. I think we're going to be pretty close, though, on our final record, maybe a game off. But I'm very interested to see what he says. Other than that, not a whole lot more to talk about this week. Again, Vince comes back next Thursday. So I really appreciate all of you stopping by. And again, really excited to see those times announced for real games. And we're in June now. Next month is the ACC meetings. And then we're in spring and fall football practice in August. So it's going to start ramping up. I mean, we only have 3 more Garnet and Old shows before we're like the week of the ACC kickoff meetings. So we're going to do a little preseason wins and losses, maybe pick some, players of the year predictions, that kind of stuff in the coming weeks. And then it's go time. It's football season, which I know to all yours who are watching or listening to this, we all can't wait. So other than that, Garnet and Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem. Go Noles. Vince, we'll see you next week. Have a great night, everyone.